Hello everyone, Kier here, and welcome to the InfiNOT podcast. I'm focused on the casual nature of the game, and each week I discuss the new patch, the new card, and my feelings on the game. Let's hop into it. So, once again, I am late, and I do apologize. With the election happening this week, my personal connections have been all over the place, so I do apologize once again, but everything should return back to normal next week, and I appreciate you all for sticking with me. We just had a pretty huge season drop, and already the season pass card is tearing through the meta. I can't go like 2 matches without seeing this card, although I do have a pretty cool list that I'm working with that I think is pretty good against it, and it's thanks to Magneto. But we'll get to that when we get to it. We're going to start today's discussion with Surtur, then we're going to go to Frigga, and then I'm going to talk about some of the spotlight caches, because I feel like for someone like me, this is a really great time. Starting with Surtur. Surtur is a 3/5 that says, after you play a card with 10 plus power, this gains plus 3 power. I mean, this card is just patently ridiculous. Like, one of my favorite cards in the game is Speed, and I like Speed because he's a big card, and the downside, quote unquote, is that you have to play on curve, right? If you miss it on curve, then he's not as big. And he can end up, if you play everything right, as a 3/9. You play, like, crossbones and an arrow, and this guy is bigger. That is just, it's so stupid. It is just stupid numbers. And then, of course, because he goes up to 11 power after you trigger him twice, all these Scar decks can play Scar for free on top of another 10 power thing. It's very, very strong. And, of course, these lists are also running things like Armor and Cosmo that make it difficult for you to, just run Shang-Chi. Because, of course, it's tough. It really is. For that reason, as much as I love the Scar decks, and I enjoy playing my Crossbones, I'm avoiding playing the Surtur deck, because it's just so strong right now. I don't think it's so overpowered that it can't be beaten. If you run Shadow King and you run Shang-Chi, there's a decent chance you can beat a Surtur deck. But it is one of those things where it's like, it's going to beat you on numbers a large majority of the time. So if you're running like a Silver Surfer deck, unless you get the nuts, they can beat you, which is kind of crazy. For that reason, I think this card is amazing if you have the money for the season pass, but I would say, I would expect this card to get nerfed. There's no reason he has to be a 3/5. His condition is really easy to meet. So I would imagine if he went to a 3/3, that would make this card feel more fair. After 2 triggers, it's a 3/9, which is like the biggest the 3 costs can really get normally. And if you play it with something like Scar, you're not also discounting the Scar. But maybe that's the design that they're going for, so who knows. Next up is Frigga. Frigga is a 3/3 that says, on reveal, add a copy of the last card you play to your hand if able. And I got Frigga because I thought in my mind that this would be one of those cards that, even if there isn't a combo immediately right now, having the ability to have a Cloning Vats on hand is pretty good. And I haven't made like a star-studded deck with her, but I threw her into the same list with She-Hulk and Moon Girl, and it's not a bad replacement. Like, if you don't draw Moon Girl, you can skip turn 3, play down She-Hulk, play Frigga again, and then on turn 6, you have a 3/10 She-Hulk. A 4/10 She-Hulk. Which, it's okay. Like, it's not bad, and you can pair that with, like, a Titania and a Hydra Bob. So, it's not a bad backup plan in that deck, and so I'm gonna keep her there for right now. She's also good just for, like, tempo reasons. Like, I can throw down a Hydra Bob on turns 1 or 2, then throw down a Frigga. I can get a Hydra Bob back that I can play later, or combo with Moon Girl. So, like, I'm getting 3 Hydra Bobs. It's not bad. I like it in that deck. I am seeing it with other decks like Bounce, because that makes sense, right? It's not quite bouncing, but you're getting a copy. So if you have a Rocket Raccoon that's already at like a 1/8, you can just copy it, and then you have another 1/8, and you're happy about that. So I think Frigga's going to have a place. It's just, if you compare her to a card like Beast, it's not a perfect bounce card, and in Destroy, that list is so tight already. Trying to go for the nuts by getting a Venom copied or something like that isn't a good use of your energy when you could be doing other things. So I don't know about her yet. I would say if you're on the fence, you might want to hold off. There's not like a list that's figured it out yet, but I do think this card has a lot of potential, and I do see it getting better over time. It's definitely one of those cards. We've seen it happen before. I would hold your breath. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the Spotlight caches this season, because for someone like me, it's fantastic. Like, I don't have Havoc Legion, Werewolf, Thena, Valentina. I don't have any of those cards. So, like, for them to be appearing in all of these Spotlight caches, this month is like a slam dunk for me. I just don't know if I have the caches for it. I'm going to have to get insanely lucky. Right now, I'm sitting at 6. I spent 4 in order to get Frigga, because of course that's my luck. So I really, really have to grind it out. I'm doing my dailies. I'm trying to get it done, but I'm sure you know as well as me, it is so difficult to get Spotlight caches when you're in a crunch. You can't get them very fast, and it costs a lot of resources to upgrade your cards. So I'm really hoping that I can pull it together and have a really, really great month for me. If there was one I was going to skip, it would probably be the Gore section, because Legion is cool. I like Legion. There are a couple of decks that run him, and I'm like, it's kind of like Quake, but with a bigger impact, so I would be interested in that. But Havoc, I'm not really excited about. So Gore, although Gore might be a great card, I'm not, super excited about that week. Now, the Fenris Wolf week, I already have Annihilus, but I don't have Werewolf. So, and I'll get to it when Fenris comes out, but I have a feeling that card's going to be good. I'm going to try to spend that week, and I'm also going to try to spend next week. Because Thena and Valentina are 2 cards that are just star-studded in the decks that they're in. I personally, I want to experiment with Valentina. I feel like if I like Hulkling, then I gotta like Valentina, right? If I'm going to defend Hulkling, then Valentina has to be on that list too. So yeah, that's the Spotlight caches that I'm really excited about. And if you're like me, these are a lot of cards that you might have missed. The last thing that I wanted to go over is the list that I'm using to beat the Surtur decks that I'm up against, and I'll go ahead and read out the list here. Nebula, Hydra Bob, Jeff, Hawkeye Kate Bishop, Speed, Copycat, Shang-Chi, Jessica Jones, Scarlet Spider, Iron Man, Alioth, and Magneto. If you know me, I like good card decks, and this is the goodest of cards, but it has a couple of tools here specifically tailored to stop Surtur decks. The things that work best here are things like Magneto and Copycat, because if I copy their Surtur, that's almost a snap condition on its own. Or if I copy their Scar or whatever, that is great information to have. Magneto is also extremely powerful in this deck. He has won me so many games just because those decks usually play one card at a time. They're not going to fill all their locations, and they're only going to have Cosmo at one of the locations. So your ability to win the game is really, really easy because of your setup earlier. You have cards like Speed, Hydra Bob, Jessica Jones, Scarlet Spider, all of which are sort of creating an opportunity for you to put power on the board in a very, nonchalant way, right? Speed is going to oftentimes get 2, 3, 8, 3, 9. Hydra Bob is a 1, 5. Scarlet Spider is putting 2 5s on the board. And then we also have the ability to go over the top with cards like Iron Man and Shang-Chi, which can just decimate a lane. So overall, I'm having a great success with this list. I think I'm currently 10-2, which is nuts. And I that's only the things that I've tracked when I'm playing it on my computer. I've also been playing it on my lunch break, and it's been doing pretty well there. I've actually started to climb for the first time this season. So if you're struggling, I would recommend this deck, although I'm very partial to it. I've been very comfortable running these types of lists before. If you're more of a bounce person, you could probably beat those decks as well. You probably have the tools to do it, so more power to you on that. That's all I had for this week, and I appreciate you guys sticking in and listening. If there's one thing that you can remember, it's that I'm InfiNOT.